Me, Ariane, and Hugo, we are participating in the construction of the high school curriculum in the state of São Paulo. And today we are going to share with you our project, what we are doing, and also bring some questions to discuss about curriculum and the challenges and opportunities of writing curriculum and implementing curriculum. So, okay. I will start presenting the agenda. So we divided the presentation in 4 parts. The first part is the introduction and the rationale for our project. The second one is the process of curriculum construction. Here we are going to share with you how we are supporting the state of São Paulo in writing one piece of the curriculum for high school students and the theory that we use it. And we are also going to share for you, to show for you how one part of the curriculum is written, and you can take a look in the final product that we will deliver for the state of São Paulo. The third part, we are going to share some challenges in curriculum construction and also some aspects that made our work a little bit more challenging and difficult. And in the last part, we are going to talk about next steps and how the curriculum will be implemented. So at the end of each part, we will answer questions and we'll have 5 minutes to engage with the discussion. So we believe that we have time for 1 or 2 questions in 5 minutes. And if we don't have any question for one of the parts that we divide the presentation, we can just add that minutes for the next slot of questions. So we would like to have a discussion in which you can participate and bring your questions and comments and not just talk during 40 or 50 minutes without any interaction. So the first part, the introduction and the rationale, I'm going to share with you why we think that curriculum is a discussion that matters and why we should discuss it here at the seminar with you. And we are also going to share how we partner with the state of São Paulo and supported them in writing one piece of the curriculum for high school students. So the rationale behind our presentation today is because we believe that one of the roles of the Lehman Center at Stanford is not just produce academic knowledge, but also apply this knowledge to support public policies in Brazil, especially in education. And our work is an example of how we could connect the theory and the concepts that we learned at Stanford to support the state of São Paulo in developing the new curriculum for high school students, based on the BNCC, the Base Nacional Comum. And we believe that is also a great opportunity for all of us to discuss how we can bridge these 2 separate worlds, the university and the public policy, the government in Brazil, and how we can collaborate and cooperate so we can be more strong and also support public policymakers in Brazil in make decisions, formulating and implementing public policies that will affect many students, teachers, and schools in Brazil. So this is our justification. About the curriculum, we believe that curriculum is one of the core aspects of education. And we brought this quote from Aristotle saying that mankind are by no means agreed about the things to be taught. And with that in mind, we believe that deciding what is worth knowing and especially what is not worth knowing is power. And based on that, all the curriculum decisions go beyond school's walls, and they are also political decisions. So when we are talking about designing curriculum, we are choosing what is relevant, what students should know. And there's a lot of judgment, value, and also power decisions related with curriculum. And we would like to share our process as one example, but also to bring this specific case to a broad scenario where we can discuss the challenges and the opportunities of making decisions about curriculums, and also who should be involved in all these phases of curriculum design, implementation, and also the difference that we have, different perspectives, the different stakeholders. So it's a really complex process, and we are going to discuss this with you today. So we have some questions to guide the presentation and the discussion. The first one is how the production of academic knowledge can contribute to the formulation of public policies. That is one of the first aspects that I was mentioning about our presentation. We would like to have this practical example of how to connect these two words, the university and the government. The second question is how power structures relate to curriculum decisions. So who has more influence in deciding what is going to be in the curriculum? And there is no right and wrong. So we are going to discuss the role of different stakeholders in the curriculum construction process. The third question is, which are the core elements that make up a powerful and aligned curriculum? And we will bring some theory to support the discussion, showing what we have learned here at Stanford about what matters and what should be in the curriculum so it's powerful and meaningful for students and teachers. The other question is how to identify a curriculum ideology. So one of the other things that we learned here is that there is no neutral curriculum. Every curriculum has some ideology behind. Sometimes it's explicitly, sometimes it's not. But we also learned how to identify what is the ideology behind the curriculum. The other question is, what is the role of different stakeholders in the curriculum construction process? So what is the role of teachers, students, parents, specialists, policymakers, nonprofits, organizations, especially when people and all these different stakeholders, when they do not agree about what should be in the curriculum. So we are going to talk about that. And the last one, what are the main challenges of curriculum implementation? So once the curriculum is written and ready, we already have a big challenge of implementing the curriculum. And as I'm going to talk soon, also in the state of São Paulo, that is really big, bigger than many countries around the world, is a double challenge to align all the teachers, schools, and districts to implement the same curriculum. So I just would like to give you some context about how we partner with the Department of Education in the state of São Paulo. So during December last year, I spent 2 weeks working as a volunteer in the Department of Education in São Paulo. And when I came back to Stanford during the winter quarter here, I enrolled in a course about curriculum construction with Denise Pope, a professor here at Stanford, that is a reference in curriculum design. Not only in the state of California, but in the US. And Hugo and Ariane, they were in the same course with me. And I told them that the Department of Education in São Paulo was working with writing the new curriculum for high school students, and that maybe we could partner with them to support them in this challenge. And in this class, in this course of curriculum construction, Denise Pope, the professor, she required us to have as a final project to write a real curriculum to be implemented in a real setting. And then I contact the people that I know from the state of São Paulo, the Department of Education, and I talked to them about the opportunity to partner with us so we could support them in writing one piece of the curriculum. And they thought that it was a good idea. And as me, Ariane, and Hugo, we have a background in humanities, because Hugo is a bachelor in social science and Ariane has a bachelor degree in philosophy, and I'm a specialist in sociology of youth and public policies. We decided that it made more sense for us to support them in the humanities part of the high school curriculum. And they told us that they already have a partner to write the humanities portion, the humanities piece of the curriculum. And this partner is Politize. Politize is a nonprofit organization that works in Brazil with political education. And we talked with Politize and they agreed to partner with us. So we make this this alliance of 3 parts: the state of São Paulo, us from Stanford University, and Politize, the NGO that is also supporting the state of São Paulo in writing one piece of the curriculum. And since then, we were just interacting with Politize. So Politize was participating in the meetings in the state of São Paulo, and they were giving the instructions for us about how to write the curriculum and which were the core elements that we should include, all the guidelines. They were representing the state of São Paulo in the partnership with us. So it's just a background, like a context, so you can understand how this partnership happened and what are the main stakeholders involved in this piece of the curriculum construction. And here, I think just addressing one of the questions that I presented before, we can realize that for this humanities part of the curriculum in the state of São Paulo, The main stakeholders in our case are the policymakers, nonprofit organization, and specialists, because we are from Stanford, we are studying at Stanford, so they see a value in partnering with us, because we have not only the theory and the concepts that we are learning, but also we have the support from Denise Pope, the professor here at Stanford. She reviewed all our work and she gave us a lot of feedback to write the curriculum. So we can say that we have a really important specialist in the field who supported us in writing the curriculum. And yeah, I think, and just to finish the first part about the introduction and the rationale, just to give you a perspective about the challenge of writing high school curriculum in the state of São Paulo. The state of São Paulo, the Department of Education, they have 3.5 million students, something around 200,000 teachers, 91 school districts, and 5,000 schools. So it's a really big state and is also diverse and complex to write a curriculum for all these different profiles of students, teachers, districts, and schools. So just to give you some perspective about how challenging it was for us to think about a curriculum who would be implemented for different people in different locations in the state of São Paulo with this big scale. So here is the first part. I would like to open for questions if you have any question about what I just presented. And if you don't, we are going to move for the second part. But now I would like to just hear from you if you have any comment or question.
So Anna, this is David. Just a quick question. So humanities is one of the 5 trillius, is that right? That it's one of, so the others are mathematics, natural science, social science, and technical subjects, right?
Yeah, there's also language.
Language is separate from humanities?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
there is
actually,
no overlap.
sorry.
No, you can go, Ariane.
Humanities, it's philosophy, sociology, history, and geography.
Okay.
Mathematics is only mathematics. Language is Portuguese and arts.
Right.
And physical education. And we have science that is biology, physics, chemistry.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Go.
Okay, so let's move on for the second part.
So given that scenario that he explaining, can you move one more and I think? So the new Brazilian Common Core was the main policy that guided us in the creation of this curriculum. And basically the new Common Core was designed in 2016 to high school, and they brought 2 big changes in the high school in Brazil. The first change was related to the, can you change one more, Annie? Oh, sorry. The first change was the division of 2 kinds of special organizations. So before the new curriculum, all students in high school had a general training during the 3 years of high school. After the design of the new curriculum, we will have a basic general training with 1,800 hours for all students, but we will have the formative itineraries that will have 2,100 hours, and only one part of these students will do, all students will do different parts of formative itineraries. So students will be able to choose in that 2,100 hours what they want to study. And our work will talk about the design of one part of this formative itinerary, that is the applied human social science, because the reasons that Anna explained before. And that is a big change because now students will finish high school with different backgrounds. And the consequence of that, what you are writing the curriculum will impact the future of these students in some way. But the biggest problem is that the federal government did not design what will be this formative itinerary, but they design the states that each state should design their own curriculum. Change one more, and in terms of, I think someone it's with the microphone turned on. Can you please, only because I'm here. And so, in case of the state of São Paulo, they decide that they will have in the applied human and social science, they will have 5 different units. And who will design these units was first Politiza designed this general idea, and so they hired NGOs to design each one of these units. Our work will be responsible for the social innovation, specifically in the community mobilization. Each one of these units has around 1,500 hours, and we will design only 30 hours, basically because the time that we had in the curriculum construction course with Denise, but also because we are only 3 people, and so it would be almost impossible to design more hours for a curriculum. Anna?
Okay, cool. Now we're going to focus on our conception framework, the ideas that based everything that we did. And the first is a book called Understanding by Design, was written by Grant Wiggins and Jay McDye. And their primary idea is that usually the mainstream way of constructing curriculum goes in a content-focused way, which means that teachers and curriculum planners overall, they first plan the learning experience, the content, and how they are going to instruct inside classrooms, rather than organizing and planning what are the results that they want. So what do we want students to learn? And this way of approaching curriculum construction, in fact, thinks that the backwards design is the best way of doing, which would be, first, we identify the desired results. First and foremost, we identify what we want students to learn and why we want them to learn that. And after that, you have to generate and determine what are acceptable evidence that students have reached these goals. So first, we set up what are our goals, and then we determine how we get to our goals. And then you start to plan the learning experiences. We plan which content we're using and how we're going to instruct. So in the backwards design, this would be the follow order. First, we identify the results, then we determine the evidence of how we determine if students arrive in the understandings, in the results that we want them to arrive, and then we plan how the instruction itself is going to happen in the classroom. Anna, please. Okay, so the concepts that guide us in this curriculum construction process based on the Grant and Wiggins book are those. First of all, it's the enduring understanding. The enduring understanding are the desired results that we want students to achieve. We want students to, in every class, in every lesson plan that we created, we have understandings that we want them to achieve. And those are the basis of the whys of how we constructed our curriculum, because every lesson plan that we created has an enduring understanding that is it is the goal of the class. It is what we want students to learn. So if students do not learn this, the lesson plan was not fully accomplished. So having a goal to fulfill and having a goal to pursue makes teachers have a more structured way of organizing the class and of understanding if they are doing a good job or not. And students can also understand what is being requested to them, and not only being in a class where they're there and they are asking themselves, why am I learning that? And the question and the answer can be, oh, because you have to, or because it is going to be in the exam, or whatever other question. So there is an alignment between teachers' desires, right, in their goals that they set up, and also students understanding why they are learning that. Then we have the assessments. And then here, assessment is a broad concept, right? We have, for example, in the national policy in Brazil, standardized tests, mainly on the Prova Brasil, they are the main assessment of high school students. Sorry, for basic education students. And here, the idea of assessment is more of having multiple sets of assessment allows teachers to have multiple and diverse information about how students are learning throughout the classes. We can think that assessment is basically the data that teachers have to inform them what is going on in the classroom. So if teachers have in every lesson plan a way to assess if what they taught was really understood, it is a way that they can have information about what are the students' strengths and what are the students' needs. Students can see that they are growing throughout the year in the lesson. And the thing is that another really important thing about assessment is that we do not want to present right answers to students, but we want to foster their curiosity. We want to foster their investigation and inquiry skills. And then we have the next concept that are the essential questions. If we think about what everyone here does, mainly who works in universities, we are asking questions. That's the ultimate activity of investigation, right? Of academic inquiry. So what we want students to develop first and foremost is the ability to inquire reality, to investigate reality, to systematic question what they're learning. And inside understanding by design, we have this idea that is through questioning that students will reach understanding. And if you think about it, it's pretty intuitive. Like how do we get to understand things? We ask why, we question how things are, someone explains to us, or we find an explanation inside of us, and then we end up understanding. So this is how we're structuring it. Perfect. And also it's important to state that in this way of assessing and making student questioning, we create an environment of a low stakes testing environment, in the sense that if we have a whole lesson plan and in the end we have a test, that students will have a grade, and this grade will determine if they are good or bad. This high stakes environment creates a lot of anxiety, and it's a much more biased way of looking if students are learning or not, because we're depending on one specific day to assess if students are learning. So a multiple and constant assessing plan, it's a low stakes one because students will be constantly being assessed, and also will be a less biased way of understanding if students are learning or not, because it will be varied through time and varied in ways. Okay, the next part, it's flexibility and fidelity, what this means. So when we are constructing a curriculum, as Anna showed you in the beginning, we're talking about almost 200,000 teachers. So we are creating a standard that we want 200,000 different teachers from different experiences to practice in their classrooms. So we have to worry about flexibility. We have to worry that our curriculum allows teachers to adapt the content that we have created to their specific context. Because if we have something that is absolutely vertical or top-down, they may look at it and they may not relate to it. They may not even apply it, because teachers at the end of the day are the real implementers of what we are constructing. So inside our curriculum, we have a part only to talk with teachers about how we design it to be flexible. But at the same time, how we're worried about fidelity, how we're worried about that they indeed exercise and practice what we have structured. So it's a conversation between us and them, in the sense that we don't want them to emulate 100% what we structured, but at the same time, we understand that the only way that the curriculum as a whole will work out is if our guidelines are followed. And the last point that our curriculum needs to be really fulfilled is the student interaction. It is really, really important that students desire and they develop the desire to keep learning. We don't want lecture-based classes that are only a teacher that pursues the knowledge and the students are there just receiving this knowledge, but we want constant interaction between students and teacher. As I said, it's really important that students' questions to be part of the class. And then the class environment should not be a top-down approach of a teacher telling students how they should be, and not a lawless place, right? Like where there are no rules, no norms, and no laws, but a place where they reach mutual agreement of how things should work and what are the norms, what are the rules, what are the responsibilities of each other inside the class. Anna, please. Perfect. So these are our main theoretical reference. Maybe the most important of them is the Base Nacional Curricular Comum itself. And in the BNCC, the curriculum explicates 4 groupings of big themes to be explored through the development of 6 skills represented by 5 abilities that in total configure 30 specific abilities. So when we constructed our curriculum, we tried to have every one of these abilities inside of it, mainly in the elements of social life, described in disciplines such as sociology, philosophy, history, and geography. And I think that the main part of it that we kept going is that the curriculum expressed an awareness that the norms and the rules that we live in society are part of history, and therefore they're subject to change. And in this sense, high schools should stimulate the discussions of collective conflicts even considered taboos. So we want students to be able to discuss in the classroom the themes that they think are important to discuss. So if in a school, it is important for students to discuss, say, how the school treats the waste that they produce. So like an environmental issue, this should happen. If students think that it's really important for them to discuss gender issues, this should happen. If the school thinks that it's important to discuss racism, this should happen. So we constructed a curriculum that is that there is space for context-specific issues, and it is important for students to be able to process, to analyze, evaluate, and compare information on whatever issue it is. And then, oh, sorry, I want to talk. Yes, please. Okay. So, perfect. Then we have all these ones. Paulo Freire, again, it's about the history is not settled. It's about this idea that history is always changing and everyone is part of this change, and students should be too. John Dewey is a really important American educator, and I think that the main idea is how school should be meaningful for students, and we tried to do that as hard as we could. Gloria Ledson-Billings is a great advocate for culturally relevant pedagogy and the idea that students should actively participate in their culture. McTighe and Ferrara are the basis for the assessment that we created and already explained. We have Denise Pope and Christian Slater talking about how it is important to center the curriculum on the students' reality, so it becomes meaningful for them. And also the last one is David Tyke and Larry Cuban. They are emeritus professors here in Stanford, and they this book, Tinkering Toward Utopia, it's about the history of school reform in the United States. And they express how in the United States, top-down approaches without the participations of teachers and students are the norm of curriculum process and construction here. And this moves us to the next slide in the sense that it's really, really important to discuss who should participate in curriculum construction. As you can see, there are a lot of possible stakeholders and participants in curriculum construction. And I would say that the mainstream practice following David Cuban and David Icke and Larry Cuban approach is that it is usually designed by academic specialists and policymakers. Usually teachers and students and other community members of schools are absent of the curriculum construction process. And this is a really important discussion in the sense that teachers are the ultimate implementers of curriculum and students are the ultimate experiences of the curriculum. So this top-down approach lots of times create resistance from teachers to perform the curriculum, create resistance from students to understand why they are learning what they're learning. So a bottom-up approach where students and teachers participate on the curriculum is always really, really, really important. We try to do this as we could in the construction. And as Anna said in the beginning, in our case, we also have the participation of an NGO, and there is a public consultation online that is happening right now. So in theory, any citizen can participate and collaborate and contribute to what is how the state of São Paulo is creating the formative itineraries now. Yes.
So how all these philosophical ideas materialize in our curriculum, I will present a little now. And basically, our curriculum is organized in 5 units and has the purpose to give the tools and conduct students to promote a social change in their schools. That social change can mean several things. Can be a recycle campaign, or can be because I'm concerned about gender, so I will organize a kind of promotion to have better ideas about gender in my schools. And the first unit, can you change, Anna, please? Thank you. The first unit of our curriculum is more theoretical and has the purpose to develop in students the ability to discuss and think about justice and power based on the history of some social movements. So they will study a more theoretical approach to building their own view about justice and power. In the unit 2, they will identify the social change that they want to promote. Can you change, Anna? In the unit 3, they will discuss with the community if the community agree with that social change and what are the different approaches that they can give for this, they can give for this social change, and they will create a plan to communicate that for the school. Unit 4, they will implement that social change. In the unit 5, they will evaluate if the actions that they have done had some effect. Can you check? And the organization of each lesson follows a specific guidelines, and that was because one of the restrictions that we had in our curriculum is that the curriculum should be the most detailed as possible, because we don't know who will implement this curriculum, and we don't know how able teachers will be able to implement this curriculum. So we had this constraining that were gave for us for the state of São Paulo. So we try to link our curriculum with each specific skill that is in the Base Nacional Comum, but also we try to detail what are the purpose that we have for each class the materials that we use, the kinds of activities that the professor can develop. And we did a step-by-step process to guide the teacher. We try to give some flexibility in classes and some options, but in general, we design a really detailed curriculum. We can change it.
Okay, so now we are in the end of the second part. We would like to know if you have any questions or comments about what we just presented before moving to the next part. Any questions? No? Okay. So in the third part, we are going to talk about the challenges of curriculum construction, and specifically in our case, what were the main concerns that we had while writing the curriculum. So I think Hugo will start talking about the first one, the few information that we had about students and the diversity.
Yes, so as we already expressed it, it is really difficult to create a really good structured standard curriculum for 3.5 million students. The number itself carries the diversity that we had to approach. So, and at the same time, we don't have much information about the students. The state of São Paulo, the Department of Education, had a survey with almost 200,000 students, but those 200,000 students represent barely 4% of all the students in the state. So we came from ideas that we have about our own experiences in education with students, and at the same time, this information that we have from the survey, but the few information that we have about the students, constructing a large scale curriculum and diverse realities in the sense of mainly social class in the state of São Paulo. And social class in São Paulo means also race. It is difficult to create something that will have a great way of doing things for everyone. So we try to acknowledge that the whole process, we acknowledge that in our process log, we acknowledge that inside our curriculum, in the conversations that we have with teachers. So as we already expressed it, there is open space for flexibility of the specificity of the context, and also we created something that is good enough to be reproduced and emulated in these diverse realities.
Yeah, I think just to add on that, we were discussing a lot if this one-size curriculum is a good fit for different students, and we were also discussing if writing curriculum in scale is the best approach to have a good implementation. But we know that the state of São Paulo has a big challenge because they have many schools and schools districts. And that led us to the second concern that we had about the teachers, because they will implement the curriculum. And we believe that for the curriculum to be successful, we need to have some adaptation for the local reality. And teachers who are the implementers, they are the professionals that are more able to do this work of adapting the curriculum to the reality of their schools and students. And also the state of São Paulo is concerned that the teachers, not all of the teachers, but most part of the teachers, maybe they're not able to adapt and to create something new based on our curriculum because maybe they lack the skills and the training to do so. So as Ariane already mentioned, we need to write the curriculum with a lot of detail that all the teachers, every teacher could implement the curriculum, even if they don't feel confident about teaching that topic, or even if they don't know about this approach that we choose to guide the curriculum, more constructivist, more centered on the student, and not just lecturing and giving a lot of information, but engaging students in all of the phases of the learning process and the learning experience. So we had to write a curriculum that is really detailed with that every teacher could implement, but at the same time, we were concerned that even with all the information that we put in the curriculum and even with all the details, maybe some teachers will not be able to implement the curriculum in the way that we thought about, in the way that we wish they could implement. But it's a big challenge that is not just related with curriculum construction, but also with teacher training and how we support teachers in their work. So I think this is one of the other concerns and challenges that we face writing the curriculum, one piece of the curriculum for the state of São Paulo. And I don't know if Ariane and Hugo if they have something to add.
Yeah, I think that at the same time, we have to trust that teachers have some expertise in what they're doing, right? We have to trust that teachers have been somewhat prepared and they have experience to teach, right? That is their expertise. That's where they are there. But at the same time, we have to construct something that allows that any teacher, no matter their experience, no matter their ability, allows them to understand what we were trying to say. And that's the challenge that we were going on through the whole process.
Yeah. And the other concern that we had is the professional trajectory of students after high school. So one of the guidelines that we received from the state of São Paulo is that as the students are in high school, the next step in their personal and professional lives is working or attending the university. And our curriculum should support students in deciding their profession and what they want to do next. So we should also give some options about careers that students who are taking this formative itinerary could follow. And we should consider that a small portion of these students will attend higher education, but the majority of them maybe will not. So they should also have other options of what kind of jobs and work opportunities they could have after taking the formative itinerary in humanities. And it was also for us a new element in the curriculum construction. And we were also trying to link the skills, the concepts that students will learn in our curriculum with opportunities that they can have, professional opportunities that they can have when they finish high school. So this was another concern and challenge that we faced while writing the curriculum.
Anna, may I interrupt?
Yes.
I'm very curious about that process. I mean, how students choose their itineraries. So this discussion that you had with students about what might be the possibilities, for employment after a humanities curriculum, did that take place before they had chosen humanities or after they had chosen humanities?
After.
Yeah. Okay, because the prior choice is actually probably the most consequential choice, right?
Yes.
Is if you choose natural sciences or mathematics or those that will determine the trajectory of your career in a way.
Yes and not.
Okay.
Because this is not clear yet, and that is the final point that I had to say, that the state of São Paulo does not know yet when students will be limited only in one career. And so students in some point, they should choose one career, or so humanities, social science or language, but it's not clear yet for state of São Paulo if students can change in the middle of the way and try to go back and choose another career. The state of São Paulo does not decide that yet. And they also didn't decide if which itinerary will be available in each school and each city, because it's easy to do this in São Paulo city because we have a big city, so probably all itinerary will be available in the city. But in a small city, they didn't decide yet how they will implement this. If it will be the teacher that will choose which itinerary will be available for students to choose, or if it will be the state, or if it will be the district. It's not clear yet, and that was a big challenge for us to write a curriculum that we don't have any idea what will be before or after that.
And also, in theory, what is written in the BNCC is that students will make their decisions based on their previous knowledge and previous experience. So in some way, before high school, they will already, mainly in the later years of elementary, they will already start to think about this process. and think about which pathways they should take. That is.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
Sure.
Okay, so so if you're trying to write a sort of flexible curriculum so that people, and somehow this is going to be based on, to some extent, on the professional trajectory of students after high school. You want to get, if I could get you any information that you wanted about students, what would be the information that you would want in order to construct a so-called flexible curriculum?
Anyone want to?
You can start if you.
I think that the point about is that different schools in different contexts will have different needs. So that's
I don't understand what the word need means. That's what I'm trying to ask you. If you wanted to define need, what information?
I would say interest.
What
I would say.
information do you want?
I would say students' personal interests. I would say communities, specific desires, and then when I say communities, I say schools. So there is a school that they have a big problem that they cannot really have classes because the students are all the time not interested in the topics that they're talking. They don't respect the teachers, and this may come from a fact that what happens in schools does like nothing to do with what their interests are. So we have to understand what students want to learn, like what are their interests. So you base what goes in school based on their interests. Like this is one example. Another example.
So I guess what you're interested in is relevance and engagement.
Good word.
You want to engage the students.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I don't know why this has anything to do with stuff that goes on after high school. What you're probably most interested in is the socioeconomic condition of the kids. Okay, I got to step away for just a second. Excuse me.
Okay. Just to clarify, I mean, I think that the point about what after high school is that this is a worry mainly about the Department of Education, and we as constructors, we have to think about what the students after high school will want to pursue. So it's less about, so it's how our curriculum can help students pursue whatever they want after high school.
And I also think that maybe students don't know exactly what they want after high school because they don't have a lot of background to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives. But I think one of the purpose of the curriculum is to open perspectives and maybe give them some options, new ideas about different careers that they can pursue, if attending higher education or not. So we can also give them more references and perspectives to help them choose what they want to do next. So I think is one of the purpose of the curriculum, but it's not the only or the main purpose.
So can I go with a question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, congratulations for the presentation. This is really interesting. And I was just thinking on something you mentioned before about the diversity of students and the different needs and of course interests that each one has. So have you thought during this process about the role of the districts or municipality managers on how to contextualize or adapt the curriculum that you're proposing to the different communities?
The state of São Paulo didn't talk yet with that layer of the public policy because they are decided in the state of, in the Secretary of Education. So the district will start to participate now in the new phase when they will consult the public and the districts.
And just to add, in this topic of the diversity that we constantly talking about, is that our curriculum is about community mobilization. So we might create if we decided that the specific content that teachers and students should have, like we were in some way be defining what community should mobilize on. And the fact is that every community, in the sense of every school, will have specificities. And that's one of our main goals, that they are open to solve their problems, to solve what they think it is important for them to solve.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can complement, try to organize the line of the macro policy to the micro policy. So in the macro policy, the national curriculum base said that we should think about communities and problems. And when you go, and so our curriculum try to connect this macro view and how it's power and justice and social movement in the history, and try to apply for a specific problem in a school. So students could try to think about this issue in a more contextualized issue. We don't know if you will have or not a good implementation, because unfortunately we didn't have contact with the teachers who will implement that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. The final part is the next steps. So we already wrote the curriculum and we are translating it for Politize in the state of São Paulo. And after the curriculum is ready, we have some follow-up steps. So the first one is a revision of the content by experts in the field of humanities and social innovation. So we can also have a specialist just giving some feedback about the concepts and the theory that we use to construct the curriculum. The second one is the implementation. And so we'll have a pilot of the curriculum with some schools and teachers. And we'll also have teachers' feedback on the curriculum that we wrote. And the last one is teacher training and professional development. And when we were talking with Politize and the state of São Paulo, they were concerned with not only writing the curriculum, but how teachers will implement this curriculum. And they also know that they will need a training, so teachers can be able to understand and implement with confidence the curriculum. But the São Paulo state has many teachers and not that much time to train all the teachers. So I think it will be a challenge for them to train teachers for implementing the curriculum with in a big scale with not that much time. So we were also thinking about how we can facilitate or support them in the process of engaging teachers and training the teachers. But we believe that this is a challenge of implementation that is starting now that we are finishing to write the curriculum. And I don't know if Ariane or Hugo has something to add on these next steps, but.
Yeah, I think I just like, it will be curious and a good experience to translate it. I think that we use lots of concepts that come from the literature that is in English, and our main audience are the teachers that are Brazilian teachers. So there will be a language challenge on translating every concept and making them as understandable as we can, because that's the ultimate goal, that the teachers, when they have the curriculum, they understand everything and they relate to it. So this will be a good challenge too.
And I think another challenge will be if the time that we estimate for each class will work or not. Because in theory, we design 30 hours of curriculum, but we don't know if all that we design for these 30 hours will be few or too much. So we needed to see at least the pilot to see how we will adapt our curriculum after the first pilot.
Yeah, so I think we are done with the presentation, and now we are going to open for comments, questions, and for discussion about curriculum, our case, or other issues that you want to share and talk about.
this is David. Can you talk a little bit about the current state of implementation? In other words, are teachers already teaching humanities? Or has that not yet happened and this curriculum is anticipating a time when they will begin teaching humanities in ensino médio?
Can I just complement the question, David? This is Iona. If and when the teachers will implement this, as you're saying here, how far away are you with the state of São Paulo agreeing to test this curriculum? Is this a thing that it's already a done deal? And if you have already know the size of your sample, how many teachers, how many districts, and how many schools? So when you get the feedback of if it's the right length of each activity and lesson, if you can compare, like where does it work and where does it not and why?
Okay, so for the first question, teachers are already teaching humanities, but not in this new format of the high school. So now they have the common high school curriculum that is equal for all students, and it's more general. And after, when we implement this new BNCC for high school, they will have separate itineraries, and then teachers will, for example, teachers from history, geography, sociology, philosophy will be teaching the humanities and social science itinerary. So teachers are already teaching these topics, but they will teach in a different way. And yeah, Jair, I will open your question soon. And we don't have the details about the implementation, how many schools, how many school districts, and when it's going to happen, because we are writing just one portion of the curriculum, and Politize, the NGO that is partnered with the state of São Paulo, is in charge of writing or partner with other organizations and professionals to write the rest of the curriculum. And already, I think we're going to have a test, but we don't know the details about how many schools will participate, how many teachers, and when it's going to happen, especially because right now I think the state of São Paulo is more concerned with managing the crisis of online or remote learning and the coronavirus issue. So we don't have like a schedule, but Ariane, I think you want to.
Yeah, I only want to complement that in theory, before the corona crisis, they had finished in 3 months the writing for the whole curriculum. And so they would start to implement the pilot. But after the crisis, this is in some way in a second priority. So we are a little delayed with the schedule. We don't know exactly what will happen until the end of the year.
I think
Jair had a question.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Anna.
Hello.
hi.
Guys, nice to be around you guys again. Feels good. My question is the following. I mean, the reality of what we feel in the high school in São Paulo specifically is that you have a huge heterogeneous classes. I mean, we were just evaluating the new schools. We have like only 3% of the high school graduates know the adequate of math. Only 3%. So 97% are basic or below basic, which means they're like 1 or 4 years defasados on the gap. So one question is, I mean, should the curriculum focus on initially at least a process of levelment, of nivelamento, if that's something that you thought about? Second, I mean, considering all that, isn't it also quite important to have a spiral construction to the curriculum in the sense that you have a lot of these heterogeneous classes within your focus group? And third, I mean, where does the social-emotional, where do you feel that the whole social-emotional part will be integrated into the curriculum? Actually, I have a fourth question too, but you know, there is the whole aspect of projeto de vida into the new curriculum that they are including right now in Nova Escola, in Nova Educação. Where do you see that going? And fourth, I'm sorry to fill you with a bunch of questions, but the full day schools do have a different reality in terms of teaching, in terms of length of the school and so forth. you envision having a different curriculum for the full day schools?
Okay, so I think I can start and Ariane and Hugo can support me. So about the different profiles of students in the classroom and also the level of students and what they know and do not know about the content. We started by suggesting that teachers make an assessment, not a formal assessment, so students are not worried about getting good grade on a test, but just to assess what the students already know about the topic. And based on that, teacher can then have different strategies of ways that they can follow with the curriculum. So if students already understand more the concepts about social mobilization, justice, power dynamics, and social change, the teacher doesn't need to spend a lot of time explaining this concept and just can apply the activities. But if the teacher realizes that in the first assessment, if students are confused or they are not confident with the concepts of social justice and power dynamics to change, the teacher will give more context and explanation and background so students can feel more confident with the curriculum. Hugo was in charge of writing this part, so I don't know if he wants to add something for this.
Yeah, I agree. That's on your explanation. I think that we designed I called it "Tell me what you think." That is, it is this initial survey that teachers are going to have with the students to know what are their background interests and what are their previous knowledge about the topics that are going to be about, and mainly about Brazilian history, about the history of social movements. That is our topic itself. And about our ultimate goal, right? As we explained in the backwards design, one of our ultimate, we think about the goals first, rather than the instruction. And our ultimate goal is to help students to develop active participation in their reality. And so I think that we come from the assumption that every single student is capable of doing it, no matter their specific knowledge on the content, because everyone is alive in a certain reality and they understand more or less about the problems of their reality. They understand more or less, the specific contextualization where they live. They know their friends in schools and what their friends like and what their friends dislike. So I think that this type of knowledge that is less sort of less an academic and content knowledge and is more of a collective knowledge about the where you are, we're assuming that students have. And jumping on another question that you had, Jair, about the social emotional.
Well, before you jump there, I mean, since the high schools are getting kids that probably they know the content of their social environment, but not necessarily how their basic math or even their basic language skills. That's what I'm talking about. So shouldn't we focus at least a part of the curriculum in the first year of high school on a process of bringing these kids up to a certain average level of the basic knowledge or skills in terms of math and language? And considering also that heterogeneous, we are working a lot with sequências didáticas on a spiral basis, because then you can actually recover some of these kids that are being lost in the knowledge that they don't have. I know that you're focusing a lot on the whole experience or the social, or how that makes sense to the kid and so forth. But you still have to teach them, the basic content of that will.
Can I jump in, Jair? Can I jump in on this? Is that okay?
Yes.
Hugo? Okay.
Please.
This is a very.
Who are you again?
Carnoy.
I'm kidding.
I know you have a short memory, but anyway, the point. I think your discussion today raises a lot of interesting issues, because what is the purpose? You stated that the purpose of this curriculum is to basically sort of teach kids to think about their world around them and become sort of learn to think about it and analyze it and participate. And they might come to different conclusions and discuss with each other, but the idea is to sort of guide them through an analytical, teach them to be more analytical. So it would seem to me that there, one part, this heterogeneity is, in this particular course, would be much easier than in math, because you can just have different readings for different kids, all with the same underlying questions that you want to ask about the readings and analysis. You listen to some of this stuff. The other thing is, you don't seem to have a field component here. In other words, in science, for PEGI, we developed a curriculum, and Paulo Blickstein has another component that he wants to put a lab work where you actually do experiments and you work with stuff. Well, here you have the social context. In other words, kids can go out with their teacher and in groups and do their own analysis of their own world. It would seem to me that that would be one of the most interesting things they could do. Exactly. Particularly if they've had some reading and stuff. So the heterogeneity is sort of built in to the thing, although you probably would want to take kids from upper income schools and make them do social analysis or analysis of the environment, which includes not just their own world, but also a lot of other worlds. And by the way, vice versa. It'd be very interesting to have lower class kids go into upper class neighborhoods, although that's much more difficult to do. I once asked an anthropologist, how come I've never read an anthropological study of the rich? And, you know, everybody's doing anthropological studies of the poor. Exactly. Yeah, because they're easy to manipulate into doing research. Anyway, so you face that problem, but it would seem like an ideal subject that has its own built-in heterogeneity, not in terms of the underlying knowledge that you want the kids to have, but in fact, the readings that they do on the one hand, although you want to have some basic readings that everybody has to do, and their environment themselves, which they're going to research. It seems to me you could do a really good curriculum, and the full-day schools could just have more field work because they have more time.
Yeah.
Jair, I just want to.
I really didn't get, Martin, how you build on my question, but just to come back, I mean.
He answered you.
Mas pouquinho. But I think I should have praised, you know, the major process of what you guys focused on, which is really give a content and a meaning for the thing. I think this makes a lot of sense, and this is really cool. I think what I'm talking about is just a small portion of it, in addition to what you guys were thinking, because you will receive a lot of your legacy on these kids is a lot of gap of learning. And this is just what I'm trying to bring to the table. I mean, whether, you know, you shouldn't focus, the curriculum shouldn't focus, at least in the beginning, of trying to level off a bit. I mean, and then you go on your way, because you're giving, you know, senso of usefulness for the curriculum, which is fantastic. I mean, I think that thing that I would just like to add.
Yeah, I just would like to make a comment about your suggestion. So here in the slide, we have this division of the high school curriculum. So the basic general training is in charge of doing what you said, just to level students in the right or in the desirable levels of math and language. And when they go to the specific path, the formative itineraries, they are at the level and they can just focus on their specific field of interest. So we were in charge of writing the portion of the curriculum that is specific. And the general training part of the curriculum is in charge of leveling the students.
Entendi.
And also, Jair, I think that your assumption about the leveling too comes from a specific standardized test, right? So I think that what we want is that teachers are in their first weeks are able to understand the knowledge that students have based on their specific assessment in schools. This what I explained about this low stakes and constant assessment, be it mainly writing, right? Like I think that writing skills and speaking skills are those who will come a lot in this curriculum. So if in the first, like on our lessons, I think that this we should be more clear about. Anna, can you put on that slide that we have a lesson plan?
Yes, sure. Here.
Yes, this one. So this is an example of one lesson plan. We created a
little more than 30 lessons because we gave some flexibility. So it was 30 hours, but
yes, exactly. So we have 30 examples of these, and in each of these we have the enduring understanding, we have the assessments, we have the activities, we have the materials, and all together with that we have specific step-by-step steps for the teachers. And in these steps are these assessments where teachers will know in which level the students are, because if we think only on IDEB or Prova Brasil levels, they will be a really biased image of the students that they have. We want the teachers to understand their students on a more context specific setting.
And another point that we thought about when we are designing the curriculum is we didn't want to spend classes only with evaluation. So what we are saying that is evaluation, it's also activity. So students will do activity, and during the activity, the teacher will analyze if students are able or not in which skill. So the activity and the evaluation are the same in some way in most of the classes.
And I would just want to add another comment that we have 5 units in our curriculum, and just the first one is focused on theory, and the other 4 is focused on field work. So they will have the biggest component of our curriculum is students to experience and to engage in solving social problems in their schools and their communities. So they spend more time in the field work than just reading theories about social change, justice, and power. This will be the first unit, but then they'll have more field work experience.
Exactly.
So that's how we design. And just one more comment on emotional skills. In our curriculum, we don't have one specific unit to develop social emotional skills because it appears in all the units. So especially when they are discussing social problem, when they are talking with different stakeholders, when they are brainstorming to come up with a solution, when they are negotiating their action plan, and when they are trying to allocate resources to promote change, they are already being exposed to or learning social emotional skills as creativity, critical thinking, collaboration, how to work in groups. So we believe that is not something it's separated, but it's also included in all of the units and the activities that we were thinking about.
Absolutely.
And to complement, only because I forgot to say this during the presentation, our product for State of São Paulo is the curriculum and the process that we did to construct the curriculum in some way to help them to do this process in the other units of the curriculum that have been designed for other people. So we are trying to detail as much as possible what were our challenges and what information that we should have had to help them to build this big and complex team, since we have, I believe, more than 30 different people design the same curriculum, and to align all these different curriculums that we'll put together in some moment will be a big challenge for the State of São Paulo.
Yeah, so just to complement the theory that Hugo was explaining, our theoretical basis to write the curriculum. So in the understanding, assessment, essential questions, flexibility, student interaction. We were using that to design our portion of the curriculum, the community mobilization, but we presented our structure to Politizi, and they will apply our structure for all the other units in the curriculum, even the units that we are not involved or we are not writing. They will present our framework so the other organizations can use the same framework to write the other units of the curriculum. So it's one of the deliverables that we'll have for them, the curriculum and the process of how to write a curriculum based on concepts and theory.
More questions if anyone has.
Okay, we've come to the official ending time of the seminar, so I would ask everyone to unmute and to give a round of applause to Ana and Ariane and Hugo. Okay.